Hi. Okay, today I wanted to talk about my own personal paranormal experience stories. And I'm going to try to go mostly chronological, even though I don't remember the exact order that these things happened. But it's going to start out kind of, very mild. But I do have something really creepy that actually happened to me. So I just want to let you know, stay tuned for that. I know it's not going to be at the end. It's going to be kind of in the middle. First thing that happened when I was really young, I guess far back as I can remember, I had a talking, singing Barney doll and a Tickle Me Elmo. This is definitely not, something that happened to just me, but my Barney and Elmo would turn on in the middle of the night. So I would wake up to hear Barney singing, "I love you, you love me," which is really creepy to hear in the middle of the night, and then Tickle Me Elmo just laughing. And the thing with Tickle Me Elmo too is his eyes, are just like white and they're just out there. They almost seem to glow in the dark. So that was creepy, but at least Barney never could seem that, scary. He's a dinosaur, and then Elmo, I loved Elmo, so it wasn't too scary. But it did make me wonder if something, was going on. So I was very, very afraid as a kid. The second thing then that happened to me was that, I don't know the context of this, I think it was some show that I watched with my mom, where they said, oh, if a light flickers, that means it's a spirit talking to you. And I was in our basement, and one light bulb, just one, was flickering. And I just had this intuitive moment of, oh, I wonder if that's my grandpa. So, I just asked. I said, flicker once if you're my grandpa. And it flickered. So I took that as, oh yeah, my grandpa's here with me. And yeah, there's not much to that story. I never met my grandpa. It was a comforting experience. So the next thing that happened, and this is still elementary school, was that our TV remote in the living room would light up red when you clicked the power button, and it started glowing red when we were pressing it. I brought it up to my mom and expecting a real answer, and she jokingly said we had ghosts. And after that, it just kept doing it. And at one point, I went into my room because I had a TV in there as well. My remote did not light up though, and my TV was on, and I had not turned that TV on. And I asked my parents and my sister if they had turned my TV on, and none of them had. So it makes me wonder if, a ghost really was messing with our TVs. And basically, the remote kept just lighting up. And I think I mentioned it to Heather, and she had said, oh, we'll just stop giving the ghost attention and it'll leave. And eventually, the remote stopped lighting up and my TV didn't turn back on. So my next story goes back to me being terrified of everything. My mom had gotten me a doll, which had, I don't even know what these dolls are called. Maybe I can find a picture of it. But they were made to have yarn come out of the head so that you could cut it and decide their hairstyle. So really, they just had this giant hole in their head where you'd put the yarn. And the yarn was not in the head, so it was just this gaping hole. In the middle of the night, I swear, I saw this gigantic spider crawl out of the doll's head. And in that moment, I had, another intuitive insight, and I was like, this doll is evil. This is telling me this doll is evil. I don't remember this doll before that. I'm sure that I played with it, and that's why the yarn was out of it. But that's my first actual memory of this doll. And after that, I had recurring nightmares that this doll came to life and was going to kill me. Well, did kill me. And it wasn't one of these short dreams. This was long. It started in my room. I had to jump out the window. It followed me to school, and it killed me in front of the buses. And I dreamt that it came to life inside my closet, that it was actually like life size. And I told my mom that I could not sleep with this doll in my room because I was having such bad nightmares. And her solution was to move it into the living room so that it was in the hall and had to stare at me when I got ready to go to school. Which also I forgot to mention, this is now like middle school. So I was older and it really shouldn't have freaked me out so much, but I was having recurring nightmares, which was crazy. And I just wanted that doll gone. Eventually, I think my mom did move it in her room or hid it somewhere because she wouldn't really get rid of it, but she wanted to get out of my sight so I could pretend it was gone. So yeah, I don't know if anything was really going on with that doll, but I've just had a bunch of weird kind of intuitive things. But another intuitive thing was I had a dream where I just woke up and my room was dark, but I sensed a presence in the room. And I just had intuitively that it was Dracula, not a vampire, Dracula. And yeah, it seems like a funny dream, but when I woke up, my neck tingled, and it tingled for a week straight. So I'm not saying that that meant anything, but it's weird. It's weird. So the real creepy thing that happened to me, this would be the most paranormal experience I have had. So I went over to my friend's house and she was playing Rob Zombie. And this Rob Zombie CD had an opening that says something about the Grim Reaper cutting off people's heads. And she played this for me and could tell that I was, scared and troubled by it, and turned the light off right at the end. And I freaked out. And okay, yeah, it was just a prank. It wasn't anything big. But after that day, I started seeing Grim Reapers. Like legit Grim Reapers around. And I mean, most of the time it was just like one, kind of far off in the distance. But one time I was going back to her house and they kind of had this like path, like a sidewalk, a path going up. And it was just a row on either side of Grim Reaper after Grim Reaper, shoulder to shoulder. Full black cloaks. And when I walked down this path, I was close enough because they were like, only right here. So I was almost touching them. And I could see under the cloak of one of them. And their skin was like a pinkish orange, wrinkled, textury, almost like when you have excessive burns. But it wasn't damaged, it was just like marred and disfigured. I'm trying to remember exactly how the eyes looked. I more have the feeling of when I looked into their eyes, I just said he was staring back at me. And this went on for months. And so as terrifying as it was, it just was something that I got used to and dealt with. I mean, they were like following me to school. I remember I was in a class and I looked back behind me and we had a window on the door and there was a Grim Reaper at the window staring in at me because they had to follow me everywhere. It's like I was never alone. I'm actually getting some anxiety in my chest when I bring the story back up. And I almost feel like, if I think about this too deeply, they're gonna be here. Like they are still here and I've just cut off that connection. Well, one day, my parents were arguing in the living room and I was really upset and I was crying in my room and suddenly a glowing light appeared in front of me. And this is mostly like a fairy. It looks like a little pixie, just like a glowing ball of light, kind of like what's her name in Legend of Zelda? kind of like that, except it was gold. Again, intuitively, I was told, that this was an angel. It didn't talk, it didn't say anything, it just comforted me. And at the time, I just thought it was comforting me from my parents arguing, but it followed me. And it followed me, to school, and I don't know, I saw this for like 2 days, maybe more, but I never saw the Grim Reapers after that. So I don't know if it was some sort of emotional thing that, the angel helped me overcome. It's funny because I'm getting emotional looking back on this story. But that said, I never saw any more balls of light, Grim Reapers. Another thing that happened was my friends and I would do these games, and I guess in hindsight it was kind of like paranormal games. My friend would do these kind of magic rituals. I can't remember the context of what we were doing at the time, but we were, I don't know, calling something forth or something, and I started to feel like I was getting strangled by invisible hands. I told my friend that we needed to stop because I was getting attacked, and she wouldn't believe me. The only reason we were able to stop was because her cousin was with us, and he didn't believe any of it, and he's like, oh yeah, let's stop playing. But I could tell he didn't believe me. It was just because he thought it was stupid. But I seriously felt like I was getting strangled. And yeah, that could have been mental. I could have been causing that sensation, and I probably was. It was probably because I was scared and I was sick of them forcing me to do things like play Bloody Mary and do the Ouija board and ask these questions about spirits being there, and basically them not taking anything seriously when I took everything really seriously. But it could have been something real. I don't know. Another time, and I really don't know the context of this at all, but I was outside ways down the road from my house, and our neighbor in the back of our house had this big, it used to be an apple orchard, but with trees, kind of like a forest. Well, woods, because it's not that large. But I saw this white glow, and that's really all that I saw. But again, my intuition told me that it was a unicorn that I was seeing. That I was seeing a unicorn, and that was a gift that I was being given. It was only about maybe 3 seconds that I saw it, but I knew that it was real and that was what I was seeing. So the next thing, this is not something that I saw. Supposedly, my friend, the cousin of the friend that I mentioned in the other story that wasn't taking things seriously, he supposedly saw what he described as a black man following me down the road to our bus stop, and that he, I think, shouted at him, and when he shouted at him, he vanished into thin air. And I don't know if that was one of the Grim Reapers following me or if that was something else, but it's really odd that I had the Grim Reapers following me everywhere. And then my friend confirmed that I had some black man following me, and I had not told anyone about the Grim Reaper sightings at that point. And so that really shook me when I heard that. There's some other minor things with my mom's house. And so with the remote, I don't know if we always had ghosts and they just weren't always acting up. One time I was with my mom in the living room and we heard a door in the hallway slam shut, and the doors were already shut. So there wasn't one to slam. So that was weird. One time I was home alone with my sister. We were in her room and we heard the kitchen cupboard slam. Another time, more creepy, my mom's alarm, her radio turned on in her room, and we had thought maybe it was an alarm and it was accidentally set to PM instead of AM. But when we asked my mom later if that was the case, she said she didn't have an alarm set, it wasn't set to that time, and what turned on wasn't a beep of an alarm, it was the actual radio, and it didn't turn on to music, it turned on to creepy in and out static. So that was creepy. We didn't want to go into the room to turn it off, but we kind of had to. And then the last paranormal experience that I had was when our house legitimately was haunted. So down a ways from our house was this curve, and you're supposed to go really slow, but people wouldn't. And one of our neighbors, who we actually hadn't known, died going around that curve. And after that, we started to hear a mattress being dragged across our basement floor. So we did have a mattress on the basement floor, but every time we heard it being dragged, it was never moved. And yeah, we probably had mice in the basement at that time, but they weren't moving the mattress, and it was heavy. They wouldn't be able to move it, and if they did, it would move a little bit. These would be long drags. And what was interesting too is I would only ever hear the dragging in the basement when I was in the living room by myself. And my mom would hear it when she was in the living room by herself. And Heather never heard the dragging. So that was really interesting. I would also hear like the pipes clinking, and yeah, that's just a house noise, but I had never heard the pipes clinking until we had the ghost. And you know, every time we've gone back to her house since, I've never heard it. And yeah, that's pretty much all that it is to that ghost, but like it was a recurring thing. It was like almost every day I was hearing this. You know, to get this gone, basically we just stopped giving it attention. We stopped talking about it when it would happen. Eventually it stopped. Aside from the Grim Reaper, paranormal experiences aren't that crazy, but you know, all wrapped together, I feel pretty lucky. You know, I saw a unicorn and an angel. As skeptical as I'm guessing people probably will, you know, be to hear it. But let me know comments if you've had any paranormal experiences. You know, if you believe me, which one you believe the most. And let me just say, none of it is me lying. If any of it is actually true and paranormal, that's a different question. But yeah, let me know. Let me know if you have any requests for the next videos that we do.